You're listening to Xsgaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander, Skullion, and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you guys are checking us out. This is another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. I want to thank you guys for joining the ride with episode 105. We're recording this on the 29th of I screwed that whole little shebang up.
July.
It's July. I'm your host, Xander Skullion, fumbling through my words, but as always, I'm joined with my well-hydrated co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Good morning, Vietnam. I hope you all are quite well. I found out recently that diarrhea can be hereditary. It can run in your genes. Psh, yeah.
That's shitty.
So shitty.
Oh, well, there's been a lot that's been going on. Before we get into all the gaming topics, you know what I had today, James?
Not sure. Is it a food, or I hope it's not like a disease or something.
No, it's not diarrhea. But
diarrhea, yeah.
Hopefully I won't get it from eating this, but I went to Dollar General and got some top Ramen Pringles.
Oh, I saw your picture of those. I saw the other day someone had posted a picture and were like, these were only available at the Dollar General, and then I saw you had some. So, what do you think? Pretty good?
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, they're pretty good. My thing is like I like I'll eat dry ramen. Like I'll take ramen and like crush it up and put the seasoning and shake it up and eat it like chips anyway. So it's kind of like that, but more of a potato chip, and the seasoning's not overpowering. That's one of the things I did like about it. Yeah,
that's one thing you could hope, because the initial thought, it's like, does it just taste like someone dumped a packet of sodium flavoring on some chips? Because, when I make my ramen, I don't know, when I take the pack and I dump it and I'm taking the empty packet to the trash can, like I always stick my tongue on it and like lick it anyway. So I guess it's something I would probably like. But, if we have other friends, Josh Sharpie from the Villians and from Riot Stickers, .com. If any of you guys ever need stickers, awesome dude, runs his own business. He'd always tell me growing up he ate lots of just dry ramen. My wife also would eat dry ramen. It was very new to me until I actually tried some, and I was like, it's pretty good. Kind of tastes when you get the cans of the I don't know what kind of the noodles, the chow mein.
Yeah.
Noodles, like the La Choy brand, it really just kind of tastes like those, but like a little bit less fried up.
Yeah, it's good. It's so not healthy for you, but it's good. And I will say
sodium, man, that's the one bad thing about ramen. If you're watching your sodium, it's not a good thing. Like I think one packet of ramen, probably the seasoning is like a little bit more than the recommended dosage of sodium per day, but all of us sometimes have eaten. I like to do 1.5 packs personally once in a while. Sometimes when I eat a bowl, but I'm not really watching my salt intake right now, so I'll worry about it when I turn 40 in another year.
That makes me think like whenever you turn 40, you need to have like a birthday cake that's just like a giant pack of ramen. Like the cake, the cake looks like ramen. That'd be hilarious.
It's great. I remember having a friend one time. I think he had turned. I hope it was 30. I hope it wasn't 25. It was like 30, and we got on like a little cake with like tombstones and stuff on it. That was like 30, and it's like, wow, I'm pushing up on 40, and it's like, a lot of times with age, it's like I'm just like, who cares? I imagine 50. That's gonna be kind of like, If 45 or even 50, I might be like, I'm kind of old, but for right now, it's okay. I'm just gonna eat all the sodium-y ramen that I want.
Exactly. And also, two other things I want to talk about that I've eaten that was really interesting before we get into gaming news. And I went and I tried this honey sriracha. It's like honey with sriracha in it, and it's amazing. The store I work at, they sell it there, and it's like the store brand. And I was like, oh, I want to try this out. And, it's really good. It's one of those things, like, it starts off real sweet, and then it has that little sriracha, just a little sriracha kick to it. And I got some like chicken tenders, and I was dipping my chicken tenders in it. It's good. It's really good. And also it had bacon jam, which was really weird.
Okay, I've heard of that. So that would just be like your jam or jelly that's bacon flavored.
Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of like it's not really that sweet. I mean, it's got some brown sugar in it, but it's pretty much like if they took like barbecue sauce and like a bunch of bacon and like made the bacon like really, really fine and mixed it all together. It's one of those things like it was good, but it's not something I would eat a whole lot. I tried to like scramble some eggs and put the bacon jam inside the scrambled eggs, but it just didn't turn out too well. So
yeah, it just like I'm not one of those people. I love bacon just like everybody else, but I'm not one of those people that has like a boner over it and it's like, oh, they're like bacon beer, bacon.
Oh yeah,
just everything. It's like, yeah, I like bacon, but it's not the absolute. We actually baked bacon. We cooked some in the oven.
That's the best way.
Because we're having breakfast, and my wife had looked up, and she's the one that cooks. I cook a thing or two that's easy, but frying and things like that, it's just best that I don't do that. So, she makes it, and she'd read about the bacon, and we tried it out, and it was like it didn't quite blow me away. Like sometimes it's better than fried bacon I had, but then sometimes it was like not as good as a really perfect fried bacon. Sometimes it's so hard, whether it's cooked too much sometimes, or either it can be too fatty. Bacon is really so hit or miss. That's what kind of stops it from being like it's so great. You just really got to get the right cut and everything. But the baked bacon, I'm all up for things that are easier, just less time. Frying things is always popping. It's just complicated. It's messy. So I was down with it. It was something I would definitely do again. On the topic of food too, I talked to Burhan because I found this ketchup, and it was some kind of like British pub ketchup, and I'm like, hey dude, I got your ketchup, and he's just like, the hell is that? Like he'd never heard of it. He's like, we just use he's like, you should try Heinz. I'm like, dude, like Heinz is like our just normal stuff, man.
Yeah.
But it was described as ketchup with malt vinegar. I'm a fan of malt vinegar, and most vinegars, if you get the other kind, the balsamic for bread dipping, a lot of Italian restaurants use it. It's great. Vinegar is awesome. It was pretty good. It tastes like ketchup with vinegar. I mean, it really was what it said. Nothing super amazing, but it was pretty good. And on another note, my brother EJ, he had sent me some games and a few things and sent me some extra candy because he had an exchange student last summer, still keeps in touch, and his student Coda will send him candy, different things, and he was like, did you try those Japanese jelly beans I sent you? And I was like, no, just like I didn't open the package yet. So I opened them up, and I was like, it's jelly beans. I was like, how great, they're okay. I kind of have some tooth problems. Jelly beans I'm like, eh. But dude, I tried them, like, wow, it's like a jelly bean, but it's like a gummy. They really were like one of the most awesome candies I've had in a long time. It's just because regular Jelly Bellies are good. Your regular Easter jelly beans are kind of gross to me.
Yeah, they are. I don't like them.
They suck.
They're too sweet.
Just like I said, yeah, it's too much. Just bleh. Like when you're 5, it's okay. They're like gumdrops, but hard kind of. And gumdrops kind of suck too. But they were the perfect combination of jelly and jelly bean, like good flavor, a little bit sour, a little bit sweet. And I mean, I was shocked. I really was shocked by them, and they were awesome. So Steve's going to try to get some more. So I mean, like I said, if you can get a hold of some Japanese jelly beans, I'm just assuming it's a general kind of thing. I don't know if it's a specific brand, but wow. I mean, it's not too often I get a candy where I'm like, man, I'm like, dude, like this shit is like really good. So shout out to Japan. Your jelly beans rule.
That's awesome. Now, speaking of Japan, going to the gaming news, dude, we had so much to talk about when it comes to the freaking plug and play. I feel like the market right now, we have so many plug and plays of like consoles of the past that it's just uncanny. Okay, first off, of course, Sega Genesis and At Games is putting out another Sega Genesis Plug and Play that comes out September 22nd. The only reason why I'm bringing this up, because the at-game Sega Genesis Plug and Plays, they were never really that good. But it seems, after I've read some of the reviews and saw some of the early people that's gotten them early and whatnot, it seemed like they really hit the ball out of the park with this. The new one has, of course, HDMI. It's got like 80 Sega Genesis games. About 42 of them are actual Genesis games. They put some Sega Master and Game Gear games on it. Then, of course, you have your bootleg, homebrews. And it's got two...
Your crap, yeah. Those are always games that you're not even going to want to play. Yeah. I kind of wish they would stop. They're like horrible, like either, bootlegs are really old things with like really bad cell phone games.
Yeah.
And just like they always put those on there. So
yeah, I don't know why they do that. It's like you get like Golden Axe and this really crap version of Snake.
Yeah. But they're like bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, exactly. But it comes with 2 wireless controllers, and apparently the wireless is pretty good. It's going to be about, I believe, $80 when it comes out. So we got that plug and play. We also have the Atari Gold, which is not going to be confused with this other Atari console I'm going to get into. But the Atari Gold, like, I don't really understand the big hoo-ha about this, because it's just another Atari plug and play. A lot of people, for some reason, are acting like it's a big deal that Activision games are on...
Well, yeah, on that case it is. There's 2 versions of this one. One's $10 more. I want to say it could be 10 or 20, but it's got about 10 Activision games. And that actually has come up because this is pretty much like a Flashback 8, we'll say. Not exactly sure, but it's up there. And there's been issues in the past where some of the earlier Flashbacks had games, River Raid, one of my favorite as a child. Mine and my sister play all the time, and that was on one of the early Flashbacks, but then it disappeared. And a lot of the different Activision games were, I guess, under different license, so a lot of those were missing. So in a sense, it is kind of a big deal because some of these have either been on and off or just on select Flashbacks. So to finally get a lot of these on there, and with so many of those being people's favorites, it actually is like a little bit. And I said, for the price difference, if you're going to get one of these, I would say probably go ahead and get the Activision one, just because it'd be worth it. Like River Raid was just dope, man. I mean, that was a really cool one to have. So, but you do have the choice. Like I said, it's either $10 to $20 difference. So you're looking at the your $80 price, and the other one I guess might be either $90 or $100.
Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering, because I was like, because I have the Flashback too, and it's got Pitfall on it. And when they were like, "Oh man, this Atari Gold's got Pitfall on it. Oh my god!" and I'm like, I've had this since like 2005, and it's got Pitfall on it. But I mean, other than that, it comes with, like, I believe, wireless Atari controllers, HDMI that runs in 720 in case you want to play Pitfall in full 720p. I honestly, I mean, Atari games. When I think of Atari games, I don't think of high definition. I'll be honest.
Like, does it even matter?
Exactly.
I think that's one of the things with this one and with the Genesis one. I believe these are the first Flashbacks for them that have, as far as those related systems, that have the HDMI. I don't know how much of a difference it would make, but sometimes if that's what you got, it's just easier. More people nowadays just have a HDMI plug.
That's right.
So it's kind of become the old AV one. So it's just as easy to plug one of those in. So, and I guess it looks a little better,
and yeah, that's a good point, because I know some like new televisions don't have AV anymore, so yeah, it makes sense. But I always thought it was kind of funny when people were like, "Oh man, Atari 2600 and 720," and I'm just like, "Oh, okay." So that pixel's gonna just be a little sharper,
a little extra edge on those blocks.
Exactly. And so we got those plug and plays. Now, going into Atari, during E3, made this little hint that they were coming out with this new console. They're like, "Man, we're getting back into the console market, guys. There's something that's coming out now." A lot of people were speculating. There were so many YouTube videos of people trying to figure out what it was, because it was pretty much just a 10-second clip I thought, for the longest time, I thought it was just a troll video. I'm like, this isn't real. And then the official Atari spokesperson said it was real. And they released a little bit of it. They showed a prototype CG, not an actual prototype, but a CG rendering, like, model of what it's going to look like. It looks like a really sleek Atari 2600. It's got the wood grain and everything. They had that one, then they had the all black one. And apparently, you know, it's going to come with Atari 2600 games, but it said that it's also going to have some newer games on it, and they haven't really opened that. Newer games maybe as in, like, homebrews or, you know, something like that. But the thing that was really interesting about this is apparently it's going to be a crowd-funded project, which automatically made me go, okay, wait. We're going to see a crowd-funded Atari console that we know nothing about right now. What are your thoughts about this? Because I'm just like, I'm still scratching my head about this concept.
You know, initially, like you when I first saw it, it's just kind of like, yeah, okay. I was like, I understand, like, people have been, like, pining for a Dreamcast 2. And honestly, Dreamcast 2 would be a better way to go as far as crowdfunding, just because there are a lot of people that really want that. But, you know, first thought is like, yeah, like, is this a joke? Is this just some other flashback that plays cartridges? You know, you have the different thoughts on it. And then, yeah, the crowdfunding popped up. And you just can't help but think about, like, the Chameleon, you know, the Coleco Chameleon. It's another crowdfunded system with a nostalgic name for a lot of people that's, you know, owned by a different person than originally had it. You know, I think even with the Atari, it's just someone else, a different company that just owns the name.
Yeah, it's not the Atari that we grew up with, and that's the thing. Like, it's really riding the coattails of nostalgia at that point.
You know, if some of the old programmers, you know, if somehow, you know, like Crane and you know, the other, I don't know, was it Wozniak or something? The guy that did E.T., you know, that got rushed into doing that, you know, wonderful game. If some of those old guys are behind something like that, that'd be a bit more interesting. I really kind of see this, like, my thoughts are, if it does get funded, it's going to end up kind of being like a Ouya, just with the Atari name. And I think maybe you can play cartridges on it. I don't know if I'm getting that one mixed up with something else, because I don't think on the flashback you can play cartridges like you can with the Genesis one. But if you could play the cartridges on there, like, that'd be kind of cool. But, you know, if they had newer games, yeah, you're looking at more of the homebrew scene and just kind of like downloadable games. Like, I don't mean to be negative about it. I mean, you know, when we see what's more about it, maybe, you know, people get behind it. Maybe it is a new cool idea, but it's really hard just to have faith in something like that. Like I said, Dreamcast 2, now that's something that would even be kind of fun to think about backing. You know, this thing for me is a total, like, no. Like, I don't. It's kind of dumb, really. But I mean, to some people, you know, they if they get behind it and it seems cool, I would like it to be a cool idea. It's just, I don't really have much faith in it.
I mean, I will admit, when they showed the picture of what the console is going to look like, now, I will tell you real quick, it didn't look like it had a cartridge slot or anything like that. I think it's all going to be streamed or digital. I didn't even see where you could, like, put in an SD card or anything like that. The console, though, looked really, really cool. It looked really slick. I'm like, man, that's a pretty looking console. But, I mean, that it's just a concept right now, and it's really out in the open. I know in the next couple months it'll come more into light, and we'll cover the story as it progresses and stuff like that. It's something really interesting. And the last little bit of news, I'm going to get into some Nintendo news, and that's with the SNES Mini. It's supposed to be coming out in, I believe, September. Now, right now, Walmart is in a little bit of a hot spot, and so is GameStop. Now, GameStop, not with the SNES Mini, but with the NES Mini, GameStop apparently came out of nowhere with NES Classics in a ThinkGeek bundle. Now, ThinkGeek is the company that bought out GameStop. If you guys have ever been to ThinkGeek, it's pretty much like the way we remember old school Spencer's. Like, you go in there and they got like a bunch of video game stuff and clothing, and back when Spencer's was cool, it was Think Geek. So they bought out GameStop. They put out these NES Classics, and they're like bundled. Like, you pay, it was like $150 or something, and you get the NES Classic and a
They
Tetris.
vary from $150 up to about $220.
Yeah, and you would get like stuff like a Tetris lamp, or, you know, like little kooky things that would be bundled with it. And they kind of went under fire with this. Some people got really upset because they're like, well, this shows that GameStop's had these NES Classics and they were sitting on them and making these bundles. I talked to some people who work at GameStop, and they were telling me that this was a way that GameStop was combating with scalpers. It makes sense, because, I mean, GameStop was like, hey, man, these guys are going to make $150 over a $60 project. Why don't we do it? You know?
Not only that, because like I'm not against it. I see these bundles. You know, you can get one, they come with, you know, some art things, toys. I was like, wow, a Piranha Plant plushie puppet. I was like, I do need one of those. Maybe I will buy it just on its own. But the stuff it came with, I thought was kind of cool. A lot of it puzzles, kind of swaggy. But, you know, if you're into that stuff, it's all right. And, you know, when you look at, like, I'm pretty sure you can't get one NES Classic for like $60. They're sure, you know, probably quite a bit more.
Yeah.
You're probably paying about the same price for this, and you get some extra stuff.
Exactly.
I don't really see a bad thing about it, whether it was combating scalpers or, you know, if they just maybe found some somewhere. That's a little bit more unlikely. But to me, it's not that bad of a deal. Maybe it gives more of a people that wanted one to get one. You're going to be paying, you know, kind of overpriced, but you'd be doing that anyway, and you get extra stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because my thing is like, you know, say GameStop didn't do the bundle, and they put out more NES Classics, and they put them out for $60. Guess what? People are still going to buy those, and they're going to throw them online and sell them for over $60. So either way, if you want an NES Classic, you're probably going to be paying over $60. So, you know,
it's to cut down on somebody else making that extra money. You're going to spend that extra money anyway if you really want one, unless you're lucky and like they put them up for $60 and you caught one. But more than likely, it is the scalpers who do this lots of times for a living, and they're going to be the ones that nab it first. So they figure, hey, we put this extra stuff. That's less of a profit the scalper will make, and maybe some other people will get them. And like I said, I think a lot of the little things that come with it are kind of cool. You know, like if I was in the market for a classic, I don't really think they're like bad setups, you know, because some of the things, it's like, well, those, you know, if I got to overpay anyway, I might as well get some extra shit.
Yeah, and say you buy someone one of those bundles, boom, there's Christmas right there. You got the NES Classic as like the main gift, and you have all the side stuff as like stocking stuffers and little side things. Boom, that's Christmas.
Yeah, and it's like on the same side, like I would defend those bundles, but on the other hand, GameStop has had a lot of their Switch bundles, which, you know, are $450 to over $500 and that's the only way they sell them. You know, the other week I went in, and it's like, man, if they had just had a system for like $300, I would have bought one. But everything at that time, you know, was all bundled stuff. And I don't necessarily agree with those as much. It's kind of like, just let the people, you know, get the system. But as far as the classics, like I said, you know, so I'm not a full-on GameStop defender. I'm kind of, you know, one side I'm against, but the other side, you know, with the classic, it's not so bad.
I mean, you just gotta look at it, and I made a comment to one of my friends about this. You gotta look at it from the big picture. GameStop is a company, and GameStop's going to be doing whatever they can to make the most max profit. I mean, probably even more so since their last promo they had with the trade-in, where you got an extra 60% extra trade value. I think either they either made a whole lot or they lost a whole lot with that, because, people were trading in all these games, and they were making like $2,000 trade credit on GameStop.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, oh man, I bet GameStop lost a lot of money. But at the same time, I think GameStop probably gained a lot of money, because a lot of these people traded in, and that's how GameStop makes their money, is off used product. So I remember myself, I traded in like 6 games, and I got over $100. I had enough money that, actually more than $100, I got around like $200 for like 6 games. And I was able to like pay some games off. Boom, that's a returning customer right there. But I mean, I'm going a little sidetracked. But yeah, I mean, GameStop's done some shady things. But what company hasn't done shady things in the grand scheme of things? It is what it is.
And at the end, if I had a really good, mom and pop local game store, more than likely I would go, and support them. But
exactly.
I really don't around here. One of the last ones, they didn't really have like newer stuff. For newer ones, it's just easier for me to go there, And even for me, I have one on my route at work. So, when games come with extra crap, if I want to make sure I get the extra crap, I reserve it at the one on my route, and then I can get it at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Whereas if you wait till later in the afternoon when you get off, sometimes that extra bonus swag is just gone,
Exactly.
And I want my free crap. Everybody wants their free crap.
Now,
I want my damn Lego set,
And the last closure before we get into our break and into our main topic, of course, is Walmart. Walmart had the SNES Mini up for pre-order. A lot of people jumped on it. I know people that went and pre-ordered not 1 but 3 of them. And I mean, the pre-order lasted like 5 minutes. I mean, it was so fast. It was pretty much like, hey guys, Walmart has the SNES Mini for pre-order. All right, guys, it's already closed down. And all these people had it pre-ordered. And then all of a sudden, Walmart was like, sorry guys, it was a glitch. And one by one, people started getting their orders canceled by Walmart. And there's so many speculations on what this was. Some people would say that maybe Walmart jumped the gun, and Nintendo was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Some people say that this was a way of maybe Nintendo seeing how many they need to put out as kind of an experiment. Regardless, sadly, some people got their orders canceled, and sadly, hopefully, those people that were planning on scalping didn't go ahead and put those pre-orders on eBay, because now they're going to have to return the money and just look really, really bad as a scalper.
Yeah, I mean, I know with eBay they have the rule lots of times where, the product has to be able to be in the person's hands by a certain date.
Which is good.
I'm sure some people still do it. It just depends on how long before they get caught. I think this really was just a glitch. It's happened before where things, if you go to a car lot and they accidentally price Porsche for $6,000 instead of $160, I'm sorry, you're not going to get it for $6,000. And the thing was, I think they put them up, which is what they said, they put them up too early. Because if they were the only ones, even Target's like, well, we'll have pre-orders at a later date. And it's like, yeah, Walmart will have them again up at a later date. And I see a lot of people are, I won't spend any more money at Walmart and blah. Like, I don't go to Walmart anyway, because a lot of times, unless it's really late at night, like I don't really like the people in there, man. It's a lot of trashy people, especially the one on Skybo here in Fayetteville. Everybody knows that if you live around here. The one out my way, like I said, if I go there, it's usually late at night, and it's not bad. I don't feel like I'm going to get murdered in the parking lot like the Skybo one. But that's when I go. And I haven't been to Walmart in a long time. I also have a Walmart on my route, so technically I do go in there. But, I don't really – it's not really going to stop people from shopping at Walmart. They'll put the pre-orders back up. You just wait till the actual date. I think all the stores will be on the same day if they offer them. Target said they will. I'm sure Walmart will then too. Best Buy. There's supposed to be many more of these, and hopefully, just keep an eye out and do the pre-order. They'll come back around. It was just a mess up, dude. It was just a glitch. That's all it was.
Yeah, it happens. Well, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of our favorite games based off of big blockbuster summer hits. Video game movies, but the maybe good ones, maybe not so great ones, but they're based off movies that we really enjoy. So sit back, relax, guys, and we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, Xander here with a quick message. Did you miss out on the NES Classic? Tired of refreshing Amazon for those new SNES Minis? Don't tell me you fed the scalpers while they eat the meat and lick the gravy of your nostalgia. You need the Retro Bro. The Retro Bro is a plug-and-play out-of-the-box Raspberry Pi 3 with all those classics and then some. I'm not just talking about Nintendo. but Sega, TurboGrafx-16, Neo Geo, and even PlayStation 1. Ah, memories. Visit RetroBroGaming.com to order yours today. Again, save the time, save the money, and happy gaming with RetroBroGaming.com.
Alright guys, so we are back, and that is a little non-profit sponsor that we did for our good friend John for the Retro Bro. He's going to be having pre-orders. He's actually got pre-orders up right now that you can get the SNES shell in your Raspberry Pi 3 and not just play SNES games, but you can play all sorts of great stuff. And be sure to visit RetroBroGaming.com. And James, you have a Retro Bro, and how much do you enjoy this thing?
I do. I like it a lot. Like I said, I got the one that's got the PlayStation games. And actually, recently, two friends, our friend Sharpie Riot from RiotStickers.com. We'll throw in some more plugs while we're at it.
Hell yeah.
He got one recently. He'd asked me, he's like, hey, man, I keep hearing about these, Raspberry Pis. I figured I'd ask you. And I said, hey, man, I know somebody. You can get one from us. He's a good dude. It's a good brother. And I said, you can check him out and go talk to him. And he ordered one. And then our friend Ryan Cadaver of the Casket Creatures, he also got one, from him. And I know he got the one, had the PlayStation games. And it's cool because the version that's out now, I actually added 8 to 10 of the PlayStation games that are on there. You get a couple of the Clock Towers, Assault Rigs, one of my very first PS1 games, Heart of Darkness, which is kind of a out-of-this-world style game I'd heard good things about. And so it was cool to be able to add those because, he'd asked me, he's like, is there any specific ones? Because we had some extra room on my card. I did an upgrade. And so these just became, part of the regular format. So, you get different options if you don't want the PlayStation. I think Sharpie got the regular one. And he even, a couple games he was missing that he wanted, he added on, So you have that option a lot, too. There's a lot of good stuff on there. Just a good dude, that, will give you any help and information needed on it, So definitely check it out.
Yeah, and honestly, adding extra games to your Pi is as easy as pie. It's really simple. Matter of fact, Josh Sharpie, he actually messaged me on Facebook, and he was like, "Hey, man, how do I want to figure out how to put these ROMs on?" And I was like,
you hooked him up with it, huh?"
Yeah, I told him how to
sweet.
put ROMs on it, and it was super easy. And actually, he was asking me like some places to find the ROMs, and I was like, "Yeah, this is where you go." And he got them on there, and it was great. But yeah, right now the bundle that you can pre-order, it's going to be $189.99. That's how much this Pi is going to be, but it's going to be loaded with the whole SNES library, NES, Sega Genesis, Sega Master System, Game Boy Advance, Neo Geo, TurboGrafx. I mean, you're getting a big bang for your buck. And again, you don't have the inconvenience of trying to figure out how the Pi works. The Pi is pretty easy, but I know it can be kind of overwhelming for people who are not exactly tech savvy because it is running off Linux, and that kind of scares people because I know a whole lot of people dabble with that. But I mean, honestly, guys, I would not be pushing this, or I would not be, giving this a plug if I didn't have 100% confidence in it. And it's a really, really good thing. So,
and like we said, that one is the pre-order, and there are other different versions that you can get. Like we said, this one in particular comes in the Super NES shell case, which is really cool. But like I said, if that's not in your price range, there are definitely other models and versions he has that are still, cool, a little bit more plain. But, like I said, if you're looking for something a little bit less too, hey, those are there. So Either way, there's got to be an option for you if it's, you're looking into getting into the RetroPie gaming. It's a great place with a good, honest dude.
Yep. So again, guys, that's www.retrobrogaming.com. I'll have a link on the description of this episode so you guys can visit that website. Now, let's get into our main topic, and that is summer blockbuster movies, or games based off summer blockbuster movies. I have to say that this is probably the first summer in a very long time that I've been more, I can honestly say, stepping back, that I'm more excited about some of the video games coming out this summer than I am some of the movies. But it's kind of been a given that every summer we'd be given these awesome movies, and 9 times out of 10, a video game would come out based on it. Sometimes they were really good, sometimes they weren't so good. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some of our favorites, and maybe not so much favorites, of games based off of these. And I want to go ahead and pass the mic over to you, James. What's a movie, video game that you would say was pretty fun, that you enjoyed, that was based off the summer blockbusters?
I mean, I'm going to start off with what is many considered to be one of the very first summer blockbusters, was Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite movies. I love most of the whole series. I love animals attacking movies, and I mean that's one of the classics. You can't go wrong with it. It still holds up to this date. Like, no CGI, as many problems as they had with the shark and the actual filming. There's a really great Blu-ray out of it, lots of documentaries, and you see they had lots of issues. But, no CGI could compare to that old busted, broken down shark. And, initially we had, the NES game, Jaws, which some look back on it, in disdain. Others, we kind of see it as, for what it was, it's not that bad. I just remember playing it as a kid. It was not horrible. I didn't think. I enjoyed it. And then we looked, too, at other games that branched off of it. We had the Jaws Unleashed, and there's even been a couple other newer ones on the Wii and the 3DS. I haven't played the latest version of it, but the one that was on the PS2 and the Xbox was a really awesome game where you finally got to be Jaws. And it took a long time for it to get to that point. Coming off from that, we even had earlier games. Shark, I believe, was one that had come out in lieu of Jaws. And the system itself, I played it at a kind of like it was some museum I went to in Charlotte, I think, and they had a video game display, just some older ones. And I was quite young at the time, so some of the games were early 80s, your Trons. Some of you be familiar with them if you're younger listeners. Like, these will be really old. I actually saw the shark game that was in, I believe it was in Jaws, but had the screen, had a giant, big shark head with the mouth and the screen inside of it. But it was actually broken, so disappointingly I never got to play it. But you look from the old original Jaws game with its kind of slight RPG-ishness to it, collecting the shells and finally defeating Jaws, up into in the future when games were way more violent and you could be the killer and it's not a problem. It's not controversial like it would be back then. And then you get awesome games like Jaws Unleashed. So kind of leaves a legacy of the first summer blockbuster into a kind of game up into a really awesome one.
Oh, yeah. Jaws Unleashed was a lot of fun. I remember I worked at Babbage's at the time when that game first came out, and some people would pick it up, and they're just like, what is this? I mean, I'm familiar with Jaws. I'm like, you play as Jaws. I'm like, it's like GTA with a shark. Because it had that whole sandbox kind of thing, and you could play as Jaws, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. Now, one game that I wanted to mention that, I forgot it was a summer movie, but it's probably one of my favorite NES games, and that's Sunsoft's classic Batman on the NES, Batman 89. It was like Ninja Gaiden, but with Batman, and that was an amazing game, and I forgot that came out during the summer. Pretty hard, awesome soundtrack, and up until Batman Arkham, the Arkham series, I thought that was probably one of the best Batman games that we ever got, other than the Batman Returns beat 'em up, which was also a summer blockbuster.
Yeah. Very legit. I mean, that was the time Batman took over the world.
Oh yeah.
It was insane how, the comic characters are everywhere now. They're just part of pop culture, but unless you were around in 1989, it's really hard to imagine how much this was just in your face. I mean, everybody had a Batman shirt, your clothes, Prince, that horrible Bat Dance song, just terrible. I called into a radio station one night to request a song, and I remember I got nervous when I was on there, and I was just like, could you play Bat Dance by Prince? And yeah, I actually asked for that just because they played it all the time anyway.
It was popular. Man,
Serial, yeah, dude, Serial, it was just, God, toys, everything. But we got this game, And we probably had a few movie games before then, and growing up, you always deal with the disappointment of them being not great. Sometimes they weren't really bad back then. They weren't great. You dealt with it as a kid because it's like, well, I like this. Batman, though, totally legit, man. Sunsoft, such a great company. They made one of the greatest $20 bargain bin games with Blaster Master or Master Blaster. I screw its name up frequently, but $20 game. Sunsoft was just great, man. I mean, wow, like you said, a lot of Ninja Gaiden elements, very tough. A little bit too tough for me, but still pretty fair in a sense.
And it had cutscenes. It had cutscenes in it.
Yeah.
I mean, these are pretty primitive cutscenes compared to what we have now, of course. But I mean, you still had that animation when you first start off, and you would see Batman and the Batmobile like go off, and then at the very end, you would see Batman, holding the Joker up, and he's like, confronting him. That was like awesome back then. I was like, wow, this is something else. And yeah, that was a really fun game. Another one that I really enjoyed as well. And I haven't watched a movie in forever. And I remember I actually enjoyed the game more than the movie itself, but that was the Chronicles of Riddick Butcher Bay that came out for the original Xbox. That was actually a really good game, and it had Vin Diesel doing the voice, repressing his role, which was, was kind of a big deal because a lot of times you would have these video games that would come out, and even when they had voice actors, they would have someone that kind of sounded like that actor. They didn't have the actual actor going and doing the voiceovers and stuff. But that was a really fun game, and that was like a game that, just separate from itself, even if it wasn't based off of a movie, it was a good game,
Yeah, it was kind of an extension off of the like Pitch Black series, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which I remember seeing it, and like I hated that movie, and I wouldn't mind going back and seeing it because sometimes I just have a negative opinion of things. But I remember being terrible. But on the other hand, Butcher Bay, you hear lots of good things. Really great. It's a first-person style game, and you start off as a prisoner. You have to escape, and it really did end up being. I enjoyed Escape from Butcher Bay much better than I did Pitch Black movies. And say what you want about Vin Diesel's acting, but I mean, he gets around and has a damn career out of it.
Oh yeah, and he at the time he was like hot shit, with the Fast and Furious movies and whatnot.
One day I want to sit and watch like every Fast and Furious movie.
Probably more power to you. I was gonna say, dude, more power to you, man. But yeah, I mean that was a lot of fun. I also enjoyed Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer on the N64, and then was later released on the Sega Dreamcast. Did you ever play both versions? If you did, which version was your favorite? Did you like the N64 or the Dreamcast version more?
Man, I'm trying to think. I know at some point I did play both of those. It's hard to think offhand. I would imagine I probably would have liked the Dreamcast version a little better, because at the end you're going to have better, graphics, music, maybe a little bit more load time, but that one probably would have. Actually, I think I traded a version of it on Dreamcast for a 64 when I was going for my 64 collection at one point till I gave up. But, that's okay. It went to a good home, my Dreamcast version.
Well, yeah, and the N64 version is just that's just a game that everyone always recommends. I mean, I remember playing that at Walmart in the kiosks. They'd always have Episode 1 Pod Racer. Great
both
game.
Are good systems. Both have 4-player capability, so hard to go wrong. Either way if you got both systems. A couple earlier ones I think of movies that come out, and some I didn't see in the theater. Some of these I did, but around the same time we had Predator and Robocop.
Oh yeah,
they both had a few games. Predator only had one on the NES. And, it really should have been much better, I think, than it was. it was really kind of a turd. Because honestly, most people, I think, before they played Predator, probably played Contra. And as everybody knows, Contra really managed to, nail Predator, Alien, and Rambo. It just totally trumped all three of those movies' games just in one. But for what it was, Predator, yeah, it was terrible. Robocop, on the other hand, though, actually had, I think, what was a really good arcade game.
Which had an anniversary not too long ago, actually.
Man. Oh, yeah, well, it was. These were 87. Both of these movies, Predator and Robocop, hitting up on the, what, you said nicer today? Yeah, 30 years, huh?
Yeah, I remember playing Robocop, the arcade game. I remember playing that, and I thought it was so funny that at first Robocop didn't pull out his gun when you first started the arcade. Like, he pulled out his gun, like, mid-level. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I guess maybe he had to fight off. He's a cop. So
yeah.
You're not supposed to shoot people right away. So he tried to punch them, for a bit. But, great arcade game. Turned into a decent home port. And then, of course, it extended into 2, 3. And it also crossed over into another summer blockbuster, Terminator 2. I mean, for its time, one of the hugest movies ever. It's pretty easy to say. Going back, sometimes I enjoy the first Terminator a bit more. Terminator 2, while still good, it just, I don't know, man. It just didn't have that same magic.
Yeah,
it's a movie at that age you could watch over and over, and now it's just kind of like, huh.
Yeah, I think what it is like Terminator 2. Like, for one, I would say it's aged great. Like, the special effects still look good. Secondly, I think I'm right on board with you when it comes to Terminator 1 and 2. Terminator 1 had that just little charm to it. It wasn't like a big budget movie, and it's
more of a horror movie.
Exactly. It had more of that horror to it. Where Terminator 2, like, it was that blockbuster movie. We saw a lot more merchandise of Terminator 2 as well. I mean, I remember buying the toys. I remember I was into Terminator 2 before I watched the first Terminator. I remember I was so young that I wasn't actually allowed to watch the first Terminator. Like, you're like, no, you're not supposed to watch that. That and Alien. For some reason, my mom did not want me to watch Alien and Terminator when I was like, 5 years old. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah. For me, for Terminator 2, I remember we went to the theater and they wouldn't sell us the tickets because we were under 17. It was rated R. Whereas now, I mean, if Terminator came out, it would be PG-13.
Yeah.
And honestly, for the stuff that went on, it would either way it would be PG-13 now. They wouldn't make an R-rated one at this point, I wouldn't think. Or either, parents more likely to let the kids go. But we had this really cool guy, man. He came up. He was 17. He got our tickets and bought them for us because it was this really old, mean prune lady at Westwood Theater that was really strict on the stuff. Like, she wouldn't even let your mom buy the ticket and drop you off. Like, you had to go in with an adult. So, like, she got me sometime, but this one was the Bordeaux Theater, and so this cool kid, like, he just bought our tickets for us. And, it's really a mild movie, but man, like, Arnold was just, that's another one really like Batman. Like, a lot of people know Arnold. Like, he's around, does movies, he's a governor. It's weird, but I mean, he was just like the hugest. Kind of like for many people now, like Jason Statham is probably maybe like the closest thing, just because he's in a million of the exact same movies. Whereas Arnold was around in lots of stuff, but everything was different. And honestly, all his movies were awesome.
Yeah. And I was about to say, in Terminator 2, they had different versions of the game. Like, if you were to play Terminator 2 on the NES, it was a little bit more of a platformer in some aspects. But if you were to play, say, Terminator 2, the arcade game, it was more of an on-rails shooter. And that was one of the games that really took advantage of the SNES Super Scope.
Yeah, it was definitely, if you went in the arcade, it had, like, the gun attachment. And at home, you used a Super Scope. And you had your, Genesis versions. That was when it was really, one of the more standout titles for your light guns. For me, one of my favorite ones actually, because I was a big Game Boy fan, and I had the version on Game Boy. And it's a mixture of, your 2D Game Boy side scroller. They're all a little, unless you're playing a Mario, they're all just a little bit slower and clunkier. But it still managed to be, pretty fun. In between levels, you had these circuit modes where you had to a lot of people load those nowadays, but you had to connect the different circuits, kind of like a maze, to get the fuse to go through. And I don't really know what it did or why it was there, except to be a pain. But I was actually not horrible at them. And, you had your stage with Arnold on the motorcycle going through the giant gutter that so many films have been filmed at. And, you're shooting behind at the truck chasing you. But I actually managed to beat it. And it's one of the ones I really didn't think it was bad, for a movie game. It was the, at that time, you kind of played what you had. And I want to say for being a Game Boy game, it was... it could have been $30. It might have been a $20 one. Not positive on that, but still, it's what you had the money for. And most times I saved up and bought my own games, and it was one, man. It actually kept my interest, and it was pretty cool. And I'm sure it would be horrible, and I would suck really bad if I went back today and played it.
Indeed. Now, do you have another one you want to talk about?
Well, you mentioned Alien.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one we can look at. Alien and even Aliens were, both in that category. And really at the time, like I said, a lot of games like Contra skirted on it. Xenophobe, another one very alien-oriented. But we did have the really cool Aliens arcade game. It's just one, man. I would, with all the alien love that goes around, and I kind of wish I had seen the newest movie that had come out. Heard some mixed things about it. It's probably on Blu-ray at this moment, because movies do not stay at the theater for very long.
They really don't.
I realized that when I'd see them. I was like, oh, this movie came out, and on the way home I pass a dollar theater, and it's like, man, that's already there. So I'm kind of terrible at going. I did want to see the 47 Meters Deep, about the people in the shark cage that gets dropped down to the bottom, but man, it's tough to make it. But anyway, Aliens the arcade game was really cool, fun. You get 2-player. Neither of the characters look like anyone in the movie, but still, it's one I kind of wish they would put it out. Someone could have the rights, put it out for a download. But you can look into what it turned into later on as far as us getting Alien Isolation games, which it's just a really awesome series. You mentioned the Star Wars too, and I mean, almost every Star Wars movie kind of came out, during the summer, and so many games just stemmed off from that to count. Whether it's any of the old NES ones, which were kind of crappy, your Atari ones, kind of.
I was say the Famicom version of Star Wars where Darth Vader turned into a scorpion.
They took a few liberties there. Any ones we got later on, though, as far as the Super NES ones, as hard as they were actually, really good. And just such a plethora of Star Wars games that just branched off from all that. Conan the Barbarian, I do want to mention that, because I remember seeing that in the theater. I was like 5, and I remember people's heads being cut off, and that didn't happen in the Destroyer. So I saw the Barbarian. It had a horrible game on the NES, but I think we can thank Conan for giving us Golden Axe.
Oh yeah,
and different games like that. Your diehards I mentioned before, TurboGrafx, just had an awesome one. Mortal Kombat, that was more of a what's that one? That was a movie based off a game, so it's just a time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that, if it wasn't for Conan the Barbarian, we wouldn't have Golden Axe, and I would honestly say we probably wouldn't even have Castlevania. Because, I mean, if you look at Simon Belmont, he was like a splitting image of Arnold as Conan the Barbarian,
Definitely. I mean, done off from the old, that one was kind of pattern of a Boris Vallejo drawing, going back from the Robert Howard Conan books, that went on, eventually turned into black and white comics. It was such an iconic one. I mean, we could almost do just a whole topic on the Barbarian games Just so many great things. But like I said, the actual Conan game, awful. You want to play the one on the 360, the newer one though? That one actually is a really cool God of War style game. And I also had some friends that played a MMO RPG Conan game online that I heard was really good.
The only thing I heard about the Conan online game is apparently you could walk around and your penis will flop everywhere.
That sounds horrible.
That's one of the things. That's like, it's bad to say that. That's like one of the highlights that I saw like on Facebook. Like, oh, the Conan online game's out and you can run around bottomless as a male. And it was just like, not safe for work. And I'm like, whoa, what's this guy?
Sounds like the worst game ever. Who would want to play that?
Now, I will mention another game that was based off of Summerhead. That's probably one of my favorite superhero video games. And that was Spider-Man 2, released for the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. This, to me, is still like one of the best Spider-Man games ever. And it was based off Spider-Man 2, which is one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. But what made this movie very unique is it took, the story and the aspects of the movie, but they also took the liberties to make their own twist, where a lot of these games that we talk about, they did that. Some of them weren't as successful as others, but this one did it real well because it had that sandbox style. This is back when GTA 3 came out, and it was the big shebang. So you had a lot of sandbox style games coming out for consoles, and this one was one where you were Spider-Man, and it was times that you had your missions, you had to go and, stop Doc Ock, but then they would add other characters in the various comic book universe, and they would play in there like Electrode and like Shocker and I remember I believe the Lizard was in it as well, and there would be like their own version just for that game, and you'd run around and you'd stop goons from taking a girl's purse or stuff like that. It was really cool. That one was fun. Also, of course, we cannot forget. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this was a summer movie, but 007 GoldenEye for the N64. That's another like iconic game based off of a movie. I think the game's probably even more popular than the movie at this point.
Yeah, that one just has so much of a so many people have attached feelings, to that game. Just one of the kings of early multiplayer.
Oh yeah, I mean
I look at a couple of others. Hey, Karate Kid. What about that?
Yeah.
That was a great game, right? That one. Top Gun, Goonies.
Oh yeah,
running
Goonies.
Off. You'll miss Lion King. Now Lion King was one, and I still actually haven't seen that movie.
What?
But
dude, that's my favorite Disney movie.
Hey man, I stopped in the kind of like the 80s. I think they re-released Bambi, Snow White, and Song of the South. And
oh wow,
I saw those in the theater. I was kind of a bit more of a proponent for Song in the South until the other night. Like, I watched it again, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and I was kind of like,
oh my,
man!
I can see why Disney disowned that one.
Yeah, I think it was so awesome for its mixing live action and cartoon, and some of the stories with the Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox are still cool, but a lot of it was just kind of like, yeah, I felt like a little gross watching it, so it's kind of nice to be like, okay, yeah, I get that. But Lion King, on the other hand, is completely fine. And one day I want to go back and I'd like to watch The Little Mermaid and The Lion King and all these movies that I just totally missed, I just kind of like, it's like Disney. I don't know. I've seen, what was it? I think I saw a sequel to The Little Mermaid and a sequel to something else that were just terrible.
Yeah,
Fox and the Hound too.
Yeah, the sequels are always bad. Those are the ones that went straight to VHS or DVD, depending on the period. But those. I think the only good Disney sequel was the Aladdin sequel. Not because they made 3 Aladdins, but the second one, Jafar's Revenge, was pretty good. But the rest of them were pretty bad. But yeah, Lion King. Talking about a hard game. That game was pretty tough. The one, I still have it on the Sega Genesis, and that is a very, very unforgiving game. But, I mean, Disney made some really great video games based off their movies back then.
Their games were no joke. They were good. They were tough. They were usually put out by Capcom. But I think at the end of it, most of them were like fair. They were probably some of the first movie games that actually were legit, other than Batman, that were legitimately good. And I think sometimes, I know with me, I tend to not think of those as movie-related games.
Because they're so good.
Because, it's just very easy to forget. But, those are ones, your Lion Kings, your Aladdins, just ones that turned out to be like really outstanding. Most of your Disney titles you can't go wrong with.
I mean, Capcom was a big play. I remember even Virgin did a couple of them. I think that's who did some of the Aladdin stuff.
They did the Genesis version.
Yeah. And another game based off a movie that I really enjoyed was The Warriors on PS2 and Xbox. That was a lot of fun. And also Ghostbusters the video game. Now, Ghostbusters the video game took the idea of Ghostbusters and pretty much made Ghostbusters 3 in so many ways. They had the original voice actors come back. You played as a guy just joining the Ghostbusters. You were a newbie. They taught you the ropes. It was fantastic. And I think that's the thing. Like, a lot of these video game based off movies, like, some of them try to take the liberty of trying to add their own spin to it, and sometimes it doesn't work out too well. I mean, a great example would be like, Star Wars, like I said earlier on the Famicom, when Darth Vader turned into a scorpion. That made no sense. But you take something like Ghostbusters or like Spider-Man 2, what I mentioned earlier, and you add that own little twist, because maybe, an hour-long movie you can't really turn into like an 8-hour game. That's really hard sometimes. But they managed to do it. Another one, I'm not sure if this movie came out during the summer. I didn't check. But Scarface. Scarface on the PS2 and Xbox. Another fantastic. It was pretty much like, what if Scarface survived? What would be going on right now? And it was pretty much him coming back to the top. And it came out around that time that the crime video games were big. You had GTA, you had Saints Row, you had Yakuza was starting to come out, True Crime, all that stuff, and then Scarface came out. And one of the things that I really liked about that game was the fact that Tony Montana wouldn't just shoot people for the sake of shooting people. Like, he kept that code in the video game like he did in the movie. Like, if you just walked to someone and you tried to shoot him, he wouldn't do it. Because Tony Montana wasn't a killer. I mean, he was a killer, but he had his principles. And I thought that was kind of cool how they did that. Definitely.
No, that was definitely one of my favorite kind of GTA-style games. There's something about that one. Cool, Africa Bambaataa, the Looking for the Perfect Beat. That song on there was just really cool. Another one, too, that came out, actually, Friday the 13th. Another movie that came out, great for the summer as far as dealing with camp. Lots of kids go to camp, thankfully. Never had to go. We had the earlier NES game, but it's one that branched off into, one that's more relevant for now as far as the one they have out, on PS4, Xbox One. It's pretty much only multiplayer. Well, no, it is only multiplayer online now at this point. And it's a game that's had a lot of its issues, but, a lot of people are enjoying it, and they're supposed to have some single-player missions come out sometime, I think, in August. So that'd be interesting to see, and I think they're going to be adding more maps. I think they've had their issues, and they were a company that really tried to keep people updated on what was going on. So I give them credit for what it is. I did play it, and I'm just I don't know. There's probably some people I know I could get in some groups with and play, and sometimes I'm not the most for just random people online, and there's lots of microphone stuff, and sometimes like I don't want to talk to people, and I can be kind of antisocial. And it's funny, it's like you can stay inside and play games. It's like, yep, and I can still be antisocial on that too. But just another one, still just a cool summer one. I think that's cool. That was a summer movie, dealing with the camps and everything. Did you ever have to go to summer camp?
No, thankfully.
No. Yes. See.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to get into our last call on this topic before we get into games we've been playing recently. What's one more? Do you have one more game on your list that you want to mention?
Total Recall.
Oh, nice.
It sucks.
I was gonna say I never played the game. I love the movie.
No, you didn't play it.
No, I never played the game.
Oh, my God, Total Recall is a awesome movie. It's one even I enjoy more than Terminator 2 now. And man, they had a game come out, and jeez, it's just so.
What console was it on?
NES.
Oh, I'll have to check my Pi.
Dude, God, just play it, man. You really need to play it because it's just terrible. But it's one I remember renting a couple of times. Like, we would still rent this stupid game.
Oh.
We'd play it. It's just, man, it's rotten.
I was gonna say, I've had those moments. I've had those moments where you just keep running the same game that's terrible because at first you run it, and we'd only had the game for a couple of days anyway, so you'd play it and you'd suck at it, and you thought it was your fault. So you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go and re-rent this game because maybe it was based off of a movie that you really enjoyed and you want to like it, so you rent it again and you play it and you realize it wasn't my fault. It's your fault.
No,
pointing at the video game.
Man, I mean, it's probably. I mean, it's on par with a good majority. Some of the just side-scrolling like T2 games. Probably a little better than Predator, but it's just so. God, it's so rotten. I just remember like garbage cans and punching that bald dude that's chasing you, and it's.
Oh, I'm going to have to play it.
Awesome movie, rotten game, and yes, like I said, if you like the movie, it's just something you should. If you never experienced it as a kid, you should go back and play it.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right after the show. I actually already had my Pi booted up because I was playing some retro earlier. So yeah, I'll try that out. The last one I guess I'll talk about is a game that I've been hearing good things about, and this is just me going off of what other people have talked about, but Mad Max, based off the new Mad Max. I heard the game was actually not too bad.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, actually. I had that one on my list. I got the game when I remember hearing about it before I had my PS4, about how it's good. And by the time I got my PS4, it was like, I think 15, maybe $20. So I picked it up, and it's kind of open world, like we can say the GTA style. I want to say it's maybe actually like a prequel to the movie, because you start off to where like you get your car and you build up, and you have races, you have battles in your car, you have your typical just fights roaming around, but it managed to get things right and just really fun. And I sent a copy of it to EJ. I told him about it, and he's like, man, this game is great. It's a game I describe as surprisingly good. It's definitely really, like I said, I'm sure it's like $15 now. If you've never played it, it's just, man, the car combat, it managed to get that right. Much better than Carmageddon, another game I got that turned out to be just horrible. It's one of my least favorite PS4 games I have. It sucks. Mad Max took that car combat. I mean, like, you got hooks you can shoot, snatch people out of their cars. You can always add on extra functions. It managed to nail everything to where it's kind of like when Yakuza, like everything in Yakuza is good.
Yeah.
Everything in Mad Max, like it's not as much as Yakuza, but everything, the driving, car combat, fighting, everything. You collect different things you can dig out in the sand and go around and scavenge, and collect things up and unlock things. But just everything they did, they managed to pull off to where it's actually fun and just a surprisingly good game. Blew me away. Nice. Just because it was like you don't expect games like that to be like great, and it's like, man, they really nailed it. So yeah, just that's an outstanding game.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap too. I might have to check that out. So I've heard good things about it.
You won't be disappointed, man.
Awesome. Now let's get into games we've been playing recently. I have a very short list. Now I was playing some retro games before we did the podcast. Nothing to brag about. I was just playing like some Sonic 2, and I was playing some like some Castlevania and stuff like that. Just playing the usual retro stuff. But I did beat a game since our last episode. I beat Cave Story on the Nintendo Switch, Cave Story Plus. Really, really fun game. Had a lot of fun playing that. And I've been playing a lot of Splatoon 2. I was a huge fan of Splatoon, the first one. And, it's probably one of the only online shooters that I really like to play nowadays. I really like the concept. Unlike most first-person shooters, I mean, of course, this is third-person, but that feeling that, you got to run and kill everything, like, a matter of fact, in Splatoon 2, like, you don't want to have to run after people and kill them if you don't have to, like, squish them or whatever it is. Because, you're trying to, like, spray everything with your color of your team, and you're trying to take over the turf, and it adds a lot more strategy to it. I've been enjoying that. The single player, the story mode's a lot of fun. And I recently was checking on the game releases, because August is such a huge month for video games, that I found out that both of my pre-orders, I got a couple more games pre-ordered, but 2 pre-orders I have for August are coming out the same day. And I'm talking about Yakuza Kiwami and Mario Rabbids on the Switch. It's coming out on the same day. Holy hell.
It's a lot going on,
Oh, yeah. What about you, James?
I debated with Kiwami, because that one's coming out, and I might, as huge of a fan as I am, I'm still going through Zero. I took a little break, and I'm thinking, like, I'm going to get Kiwami when it comes out, but I might actually save it till around Christmas, because I remember playing Yakuza 5 during Christmas, and that for me at work, lots of times it is just a tough time. It's so much work, and it's a really good escape. So it's possible I'll get it, and kind of hold off to playing it. On the one hand, speaking of work, I've been working 6 days a week. I've only had like Sunday off for like a month, with no less than 8.5 hours a day. Sometimes going up to like 9, 10. Just been working, and I decided to pre-order a Switch.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed online, and I went to the GameStop website, and I actually ended up – it's through ThinkGeek, which, like we said earlier, it's all the same.
Yeah.
I mentioned some of the GameStop bundles. ThinkGeek had their bundles, and they were $3.99 for – I got the one with the system, Mario Kart, and like a stuffed mushroom head. Mm-hmm. 1-up mushroom. I figured – I'm paying a little bit for the mushroom thing, but I'm still getting the system, and it's like I know I'm going to get it. They come out on the 1st, and I got like the 1-day shipping, so I'm hoping on the 2nd I'll have it. Whereas, and I got the red and blue. That was the one I really kind of wanted, because I figured I was going to get one eventually, but I was like, I've been working a whole bunch. Might as well snag one up. Amazon, on the other hand, who you think would have a really good deal, are selling the system for $3.99. Just the system.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, that was kind of, like, mind-blowing.
Is that Amazon, or is that, like, a third party off Amazon?
Nah, dude, it's just Amazon.
Wow, like, that's crazy.
It's $3.99. Like, the system should be, just $2.99. So I figure I'm paying $30-$40 just convenience fee. So, but I'm getting the Mario, and I already know a couple games. I think I'm going to pick up the Puyo Tetris and the Street Fighter, and get a card to download some stuff. But I'm looking forward to getting it. Hopefully, get off work early and play it.
Well, I'll tell you firsthand. The Joy-Cons with the Joy Grip is not really that. It's a pretty comfortable controller. I want to do more research on that Hori Pro Pad, because I will say a Pro controller on the Switch is like such a given, man. That was probably one of the best investments I did on that console when I went. And I know the Pro controller is like a little expensive.
So do you have the Duo too?
I have. Well, no. That's like the 8-bit Do controllers. I don't have anything with 8-bit Do other than that little small controller. But yeah, the 8-bit Do controllers are compatible with the Switch, and you can get one that's they're supposed to be releasing one that looks like the Super Nintendo controller, but it's actually got 2 thumbsticks and two extra shoulder buttons, like a PlayStation thing. They're releasing that in the next couple of months. That's going to be like a really good Switch style controller. But the actual like official Nintendo Switch Pro controller, man, I'm telling you, yeah, it's a little expensive, but it is such a great controller. And I feel bad because I have the Joy-Cons and the Joy Grip, but it's more of a centerpiece on my shelf. I use the Pro Controller for everything. Even when I go and I take my Switch with me, like I took my Switch with me when I was doing some errands, and when I went to sit down and I was eating some lunch, I decided to play some Street Fighter 2. I had my Switch in kickstand mode, and I was using the Pro Controller because, I mean, that's just the best way, in my opinion, to play Street Fighter 2 and a lot of those more older games, like older style. Because you can also check out, if you haven't played it yet, Blaster Master Zero. They had the new DLC coming out that's got Shanty and Shovel Knight on it. That's on the Switch and the 3DS.
Yeah, that's definitely one I'm going to get. Yeah, that's my thought on the controller. Like, I know I want to get... I'm looking at either the, the Hori, wired one of the 8-bit does, or the, I probably should just go ahead and break down and maybe get the Nintendo one.
I mean, to be honest, I mean, because I know a lot of people, they look at the price and they're like, oh, that's so expensive. I mean, you pay
about $60 for a PS4 controller.
Exactly. And the thing about it is like, to me, this is an investment. I mean, this isn't like you're not getting this thing and it's not like you're going to spend $80 on it and never play it. You mean, you're going to get your $80 worth with it. And it's a great controller.
I mean, my Wii U, the Pro, I use that as much as possible. And like EJ, he told me, he was like, because I was like, what do I need to get with this? He's like, you need a screen protector and a Pro Controller of some type. He's like, that's all you really need to get.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to think it's like, hey, I don't need all this extra crap. It's like, so I can get screen protector, and I'd probably go ahead and drop the funds and, just get the Pro one. But it's like I'm really looking forward to getting. I know there's a lot of stuff coming out. I don't think we even probably mentioned I don't know if we had like the Metroids, coming out. You're looking at like amiibos. They're going to give extra functions, to the game. Whether you got the older ones, the Zero Suit, and the original one, and they got the actual like Metroid and another Samus coming out. That'll give you like the fusion suit. And I love the amiibos, and I still love the idea of them adding extra functions to the game. So with getting the Samus Returns. And, which I hear might be next year, but getting Metroid Prime 4. At the end of the day, you just know there's going to be really awesome stuff. I mean, the Mario coming out, just lots of things. And I'm already set as far as having, like I said, the couple games I'm going to get. I know having it from the start, it's like that'll be a good, there's enough out there at the moment. Not to mention the fact, too, that just about 4 to 5 months into its life, it still kind of feels like I'm jumping into it, with everybody else that did back then.
Yeah, I mean, look at the lineup when you get a chance. There's already there's going to be 13 games coming out for the Switch in August, and I mean, I think you could agree as a Wii U owner, that's a really big deal. I mean, you remember when we had the Wii U and we had like one game that came out every 6 months? We got 13 in 1 month. And they're pretty good games. They're not just, it's not like we're getting Mario Rabbids next month and the rest of we're getting is this shovelware. But we're getting a lot of fun stuff. And, I have to say, the Switch, so far, it's been great. I love it. Would I recommend it as like your primary console? I look at the Switch the same way as I looked at the Wii U. To me, it's a console palette cleanser. I mostly game everything on the PS4, but, it's nice to have something a little different. I can go to the Switch for that.
Yeah, Nintendo's always had that, I think thing for us, even with the Wii U. It's just something to get a little bit different. But this one already, I think is more successful than the Wii U.
Oh, yeah.
It's just selling, really great. I mean, it's just not – it almost seems like you think they would – want to have more out there. Like they're still kind of, with me, it was still easy to, pre-order this one, which I should be getting, like I said, hopefully on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it's very easy. You don't have to get one of the $500 plus bundles at GameStop. If you just look around online, they still are around. You just have to search a bit. It would be nice just to be able to go to the store, $300 and get one. And I think you will see that as the time goes on, especially towards Christmas. They're definitely going to want to sell a whole bunch, and of course with Mario coming out, very soon, they're going to want to have more systems because people are going to want to, play that. Because, I mean, Zelda hit a point to where there was more copies of Zelda for the Switch sold than there were Switches.
Yeah.
Which was just telling you, it's like, there's maybe a little slight issue because at least people were buying them in preparation of, getting one. It's, I would say, not as bad as the Wii. The Wii was very tough to find, for a long time. Where this one is, you just go online and pre-order it, and you'll be good.
Yeah, I don't think I think a lot of people, they see the Switch and they see that it's hard to come by. Now, I will say there's a lot more Switches out around this time because of Splatoon 2. I mean, I went to Best Buy not too long ago and they had like 12 Switches just chilling there. And,
yeah, there's some Splatoon bundles also coming out as well.
And the thing is, I think a lot of people, they see that it's sold out and they're automatically thinking that it's like that false marketing, kind of like with the NES Mini. They're like, oh, is this Nintendo doing Nintendo stuff? I really think what it is like the demand is so much higher than they can push them out right now, which is, it happens. It happened with the PS3. It happened with the Xbox 360 at one point. I mean, it is what it is. People want it, and they can only make so many, So I do think when the holiday comes in, we'll see a much bigger surplus, especially with Mario. I already know people that are getting the Switch and Mario for their kids for Christmas, and that's awesome. It's going to be great. This holiday season, we have a new Nintendo console with a new Mario game. That's Christmas right there, But yeah,
pretty much, it's a good way to. I mean, you can't go wrong with Christmas with that. I did that when I got my Wii U, and I saved it till Christmas. Played some Mario. You can't beat that. It's just classic right there.
Exactly. Now, is there any last games you want to mention? Because that was all mine. That was all the games I've played.
Yeah, nah. I think I'm pretty good on that.
The next episode, I'll have a lot more games to talk about because, like I said, man, dude, August is insane. Like the games I just have right now under my radars, like the Mega Man 2 Legacy. I also have Yakuza Kiwami, Mario Rabbids, Wonder Boy, because Limited Run's coming out with that, and Sonic Mania.
Can't forget, too, if you're into Uncharted, there's the new one with the female protagonist in there.
Oh, yeah.
That's another one. That one's on the 22nd, and I think Kiwami is the 27th. They're like 5 days apart. So they're both two pretty big PlayStation 4 titles coming out. To where it's like those are ones that's like, yeah, I hadn't played Uncharted on the PS4 yet, so I might check that one out. And then, like I said, still looking forward to the Switch and planning on getting me a eShop card so I can definitely go on there and pick out a couple there. But I've been seeing some list of a lot of games coming out, and it's just gonna be kind of fun. It's always awesome to get like a new system, and it'd be nice if I could take a day off, and just hang out with it. But doesn't seem like that, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this concludes another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. I want to thank you guys so much for checking us out. And, of course, if you guys listen to us on podomag.com, go over to iTunes if you can and give us a little review. It really helps the show, gets us some more listeners, including yourself. And if you're listening to us on Podomag or on iTunes, you can also check us out on youtube.com/Xander Skullion. That's my YouTube channel right now. As of now, I've uploaded a new video of unboxing video. I actually got two unboxing videos. I got one of the physical backings of Mighty Number 9. I finally got that Famicom box and manual that was too big to fit the box, so they're sending me another manual. Good job, Fangamer and Concept. You never cease to amaze me. And also did a unboxing a Power Level multi-crate, which was pretty much, spoiler alert, a bunch of amiibos, about 4 amiibos, including some of the ones that just came out. Really excited about that. So check that out. That's youtube.com/Xander Skullion. And also, again, I want to give a big plug for two of our friends. One is going to be our friend John, the Retro Bro. It's retrobrogaming.com. Be sure to pre-order your SNES shell, Raspberry Pi 3, filled with all sorts of goodies, not just SNES. And also our good friend Josh. Let's go ahead and plug him again with Riot Stickers. If you guys already got a business and you guys want some stickers, definitely go to him. He has some really great rates. I remember my old band, we actually had some of our stickers made from him, and they're great quality, good top-notch stuff. Definitely. As always, guys, thanks for listening, and as always, happy gaming.
Have a pleasant evening, everybody.
Can't get enough of Xsgaming Podcast? Be sure to check out our audio podcast on podomag.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you'd like to share, be sure to check us out on Facebook on our group page and join the community. As always, guys, thank you so much for all the support and happy gaming.